Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Thursday's edition, and we are broadcasting from beautiful, sunny Delray Beach, Florida. Happy to have you with us today, and also happy to have my partner, Jeffrey Dunetz from Long Island, New York. Jeffrey, welcome back. How are you?
Great to be here. How does it feel to be close to spring training?
Well, it's very close to spring training. Here we are in the spring training season, and Palm Beach County. Well, we have a couple
I don't want to say
teams.
anything, but this is what I keep on my desk to remind me.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Jeffrey, man, it was pretty wild. You said you had some snow in New York. Wasn't it crazy what happened in California?
Oh, man.
My God, the Sierras, Tahoe, 6-7 feet of snow.
It's incredible. Actually, a friend of mine who lives in California sent me a picture of the snow falling on him and say, nothing like California, sunny California.
It's amazing. Didn't you tell me the global warming people were blaming the heat for the snow?
Right. The heat
Makes
for
all
the snow,
sense.
and Biden was blaming Trump for the snow.
Here we go again, typical. Hey, let's get right to it. Speaking of Biden, really for the first time since we actually have had Biden as president, the Senate has rebuked him on this ESG investing rules. Jeffrey, a bipartisan Senate approved a measure basically stripping the ESG rules. Now, Biden's likely to veto it. Share with our audience your interpretation of ESG, if you will.
Well, it's leaning people's investments towards the environment or greening, the social issues,
yes,
and governance factors.
Yep.
The interesting thing is that the lead opponent of this is Joe Manchin.
Yep.
Because he's not going to switch parties. If he does anything, he'll become independent. But he's on TV today, and they're asking him if Biden runs again, will he support him? And he did the typical politician tap dance, and he didn't answer the question, but he tap danced around it really well. Almost like Gene Kelly.
Well, the other Democrat senators that is opposed to this ESG garbage is John Tester out of Montana, who, oh, by the way, is going to be running in a red state. Now, this guy Tester, he votes about the same as Schumer, but for some inexplicable reason, the people of Montana send this guy back. And, he's running for a fourth term. He's been elected 3 times. He obviously knows the state. And he is taking the same side as Manchin on this ESG rules.
Well, it's just like what the Democrats are trying to do. Make the government control all your decisions.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they don't send out a menu that I'm supposed to eat by every day.
Well, the interesting thing is people really, they don't like this because, frankly, some of these companies who are, quote, ESG friendly type companies do not perform as well as some of the ones that don't.
Well, but that's the whole thing, because if they did, it wouldn't be a problem. But what they're doing is, and a lot of them are pension plans and things like that.
That's right.
In a way, they're screwing old people, because the people running those plans should be making their investments based on what will make the most money.
That's right.
As simple as that.
That's right. And companies that...
instead they have to take other things into consideration, which is stupid.
Yeah, the things they need to be considering are dividends, stock price, earnings potential, price earnings, the standard things you look for as an investor. But look, this thing has been a long time coming to a head, and I'm glad it is. Biden may veto it. Okay, fine. Yeah, he's going to.
What I read today, they said he's going to veto it.
But you know what? This is not the first time this bill will be before a president. If we get a Republican president, that bill will be signed. So again, this is typical Joe Biden. I mean, he's siding with the far left-wing radicals in his base, and this guy doesn't seem to care. And we'll talk about Biden a little bit more in the show. Look, the Supreme Court, Jeffrey, heard arguments on Biden's massive student loan forgiveness plan. It appeared unlikely that the justices were going to side with Biden, although the Solicitor General, who made the argument for the administration, apparently did a damn good job in her arguments. Now, will that be enough to sway the court? I doubt it, because I think it's patently illegal. What's your thoughts on this student loan thing?
I think that the only way they don't strike it down is if they decide that it has no standing. If
That's the argument being made.
And to me, that's a court's way of not getting involved. Oh no, I can't see it. You have no standing. Well, guess what? Those states have a standing because, their citizens will be paying a lot more. Will be paying, and one of the attorneys said, well, I don't even know, maybe it was a judge saying, so if someone is going to med school and somebody who is a blue collar worker, and the guy who went to med school is going to make 5 times more than the blue collar worker, you're telling me the blue collar worker got to pay for the other guy's college?
Effectively, that's what the Democrats are doing.
Right.
That's correct. That's a good analogy. And again, we talked about it on Tuesday's show. 4% of the students are getting 12% of the benefits, from Ivy League schools, and 20%, 40% of the students at public schools, state schools, are getting 20%. It's patently unfair. Congress is the one that spends the money. Pelosi even said it, that Biden can't do this, and yet here we are before
who's going to make the most out of it?
Yeah, and the Supreme Court supposedly is going to make a decision on this by July.
But the one who stands to get the most out of it are the schools, because every time the government does something like this or raises the amount of loans they're going to give, the schools raise their prices.
Yeah, and you had that battle axe Randy Weingarten, the head of the teachers union, standing in front of the Supreme Court yelling and shouting and screaming. I agree with Mike Pompeo. She's one of the most dangerous people in America. And you know what all this does, Jeffrey? It adds $400 billion to a debt where the United States is currently $31.4 trillion in debt. This is insane policy, and somebody's got to put their foot down and say enough is enough. This is illegal. And I hope the Supreme Court effectively tosses this so that 60 days after that, these deadbeat students who borrowed this money will be forced to pay it back.
One of the proudest accomplishments of my life is that when my debt came from college and grad school came due 9 months after I graduated, I actually could pay it off.
Yeah, I paid my student debt off too. I concur with you. I mean, why should one segment of the population, in this case, rich Ivy League kids predominantly, get rewarded at the expense of others, not only at the expense of blue-collar workers who didn't borrow to go to college, but to the expense of people that did borrow for student loans and they paid them back. I mean, this just reeks of just bad government policy, pandering, and that's typical Democrats. So, I mean, why am I surprised?
As a parent, it's teaching the kids who have their loans thrown away that, they can make commitments and not follow them.
It's a very similar thing to what's happening in these Democratic cities, these deep blue cities where crime is overwhelming, and they're saying, "Well, we don't have enough prisons, we don't have enough cops, we can't handle it, so we got to let the criminals go." It's similar, same concept on student loans. So it's just a bad policy. You borrow the money, you should pay it back.
That's
I mean,
right.
It's not that hard. But again, Biden has a constituency that he's trying to protect, and this is politics 101, and Biden is exercising it within what he believes his powers are. I truly hope that the Supreme Court strikes this down, because it's a complete violation of the Constitution.
They will not support it because he has the power to it. Okay, because too many of those judges are big on separation of powers.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they stick to their guns on this. Look, we've seen some early polling. Jeffrey, how do you make of this early polling? We've seen 2 polls. Trump over DeSantis by 8 points. Another Emerson poll showed Trump by like over 20 points ahead of DeSantis. Do these polls mean anything at this time, with only at this point Trump and Nikki Haley? There's one other Republican candidate in there, a successful businessman, but predominantly 2 Republicans, in the race right now. Do the polls mean anything, Jeffrey?
In 2015, Jeb Bush was going to become the nominee. Well, that's
Right.
what all the polls said,
Right.
And he didn't win. It's
Didn't
early.
win. He barely got 1% of the vote.
Right. In my mind, it's too even early to worry about it. And a lot of the court cases that are about to happen, and if they do implicate Trump, that's going to throw down his support also, I hope. I don't want him to get thrown in jail, but it's certainly, if he's convicted of something, it's going to hurt him.
Well, if he's charged with something, it would
That's
hurt
what
him.
I mean. Yeah.
I thought you meant charged, not convicted.
I didn't mean charged.
Yeah, and the other thing is, not, again, outside of Nikki Haley, no one else has got in, and
Yet.
I'm expecting Mike Pence to get in the race. I'm expecting Ron DeSantis to get in the race. Mike Pompeo's a possibility. Tim Scott, I'm expecting to get in the race. That would be 6 candidates. And then, of course, you got some others that are considering it. Governor Sununu of New Hampshire, Glenn Youngkin of Governor of Virginia, Brian Kemp, Governor of Georgia. Add 3 more, you could have 9. Now,
Kemp can't run.
What do you mean he can't run?
Because he didn't let the blacks vote in the last 2 elections.
Oh, God. Oh, according to Stacey Abrams. Yeah, right. Georgia had the fairest elections in the country.
I know that.
You know that, of course. All right, now let's shift over to Biden. Jeffrey, polling out 68% of voters do not want this guy to run for re-election. Does it matter? Is that message going to get through?
If he decides to run, he's going to get the nomination. It's as simple as that.
Of course he will. Of course he will. Do you think he will decide to run?
That he's going to run.
I think he's going to run. One thing about Biden, he's given no indication that he's not going to run. His wife effectively said he's planning on running, and although if you read the tea leaves, she sort of wishes he wouldn't. But I get the sense, and if I look at it from Biden's perspective, which I'm trying to do here, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's ever lost an election. He became a senator at the age of 29.
He lost a couple of nominations. Yes.
Well, yeah, that he did. We're running for president, but yeah, he did. That's good point. Good point.
Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin beat him up bad.
Yeah, I remember.
1 year.
Yeah, so he did lose 2 presidents. That's correct, before he won one. Yeah. All right. Well, so 68% of voters don't want him to run. The Democrats have no alternative at this point. They may, but no one's going to step in front of Biden if he decides to run. Can you imagine if Biden said, no, I'm not going to run, what would happen to the Democratic field?
Yeah, there can be 4 or 5 people running into the same doorway.
There would be. Yeah, there sure would be.
You got
we're not going to get
the governor of Illinois. You have Stacey Abrams, who thinks she should be God.
Yeah, you're going to have a number of.
Right.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think the likelihood is, unless something comes up health-wise for him in the next month, I'm guessing he runs.
I hope he does, because unless the Republicans pick a really bad candidate, it means that there'll be a Republican president. But I
concur with you.
He can beat Trump.
I don't think Trump can beat Biden. Any other Republican, right, I think will beat him, other than Trump. That's my personal opinion.
I agree with you.
I don't think Trump can win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That's my personal opinion. I think other Republicans could, but we'll see how it goes. Speaking of that, though, Jeffrey, I found it somewhat amusing what happened in Chicago. The first time in 40 years that an incumbent mayor in our 3rd largest city has been defeated, and she was crushed. She came in actually 3rd. And of course, Jeffrey, what did she blame on her loss? She blamed her gender, her sexual orientation, and the color of her skin. Why did none of those 3 things come into play when she won 4 years ago?
I don't know, but I know what happened this time. Someone forgot to say Beetlejuice the 3rd time. Because if you ever took a look at her and Beetlejuice, they're twins. But I think, to be straight about it, I think the Chicago voters didn't want to die
Yeah,
because
that's a pretty good reason
crime
to vote
and
against.
murders have skyrocketed under her
Yeah,
administration.
yeah.
It was
Ted,
simple as that. But the scary thing, it's the runoff. The guy who's leading, the lead guy in the runoff is a law and order guy. Everything else, he's social justice kind of thing. But he wants more cops. He wants more people on the beat, et cetera, et cetera. The other guy he's running against is a defund the police guy.
oh boy.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think that if the leading guy runs on a law and order basis, how can you not vote for him, even if you're a far left person?
Right.
Like I said, the big thing in Chicago is you don't want to die.
That's true. And boy, it's gotten to a point. I mean, look, you saw what happened in New York City when crime spiked. People just quit going. They moved out of the city, and you lose your tax base and you have deterioration. Same thing will happen in Chicago. I mean,
they lose the cops
if it
too.
continues. Yeah, they are.
How many? Yeah. And DeSantis is giving them what, $5,000 to move to Florida and become a cop?
We need more down here because we have 800 people a day moving into our state, Jeffrey.
Right.
So it's a lot. And the sad thing is this: just while we're announcing this about former Mayor Lightfoot, a Chicago police officer was killed. How was he killed? Chasing some teenage thug. The thug turned around, fired a gun, killed the police officer. In the exchange of gunfire, the kid was hit and he's in critical condition. Here again, a teenager in Chicago brandishing weapons. I mean, Jeffrey, Chicago loses a 5-year police veteran because some thug is out there with a gun and he turns around and kills a police officer. It's just disgusting.
And people are going to say, well, it's because he was able to get a gun. If someone wants to get a gun, even if it's illegal, they're going to get a gun. And it's ridiculous to start blame. I mean, I have type 2 diabetes. Okay. Are they going to blame the knife and fork because I ate too much to get diabetes that gave me it? It's either that or they're going to blame Trump. I mean, it's ridiculous. You have to blame the villain, not the tools.
Yeah. It's just, anytime you see something like this, it's just sad. And, these young kids just live by the gun, die by the gun. I mean, it's just a mentality that's just terrible. And it's not confined to Chicago by any stretch. This is a nationwide problem. Down here in South Florida, we had some break-ins not too far from here recently. I was talking to one of the police officers. I said, what's going on here? He goes, Mark, we see it all the time. They're teenagers breaking into cars looking for guns and money.
You know what the big thing in my neighborhood is? They steal the the converters.
Catalytic converter. I heard that.
Because what do they have, platinum in them or something like that? And they steal that one metal and they throw the rest out.
Oh gosh, just whew.
My son-in-law had that happen to his car.
Anyhow, I hope the people of Chicago, unlike the voters in Pennsylvania who elected John Fetterman, can elect a mayor that will represent their best interest. So, I'm pulling for whoever the guy is who's, pro-police, more guys on the streets. That's who I'm pulling for to win. But, again, you and I don't have a dog in that game. So, hey, let me turn to economics here. Okay. Core inflation, Jeffrey, still hot in this country. In Europe, it's at record levels. And in Germany, it was 9%. And yet our stock market today sort of shrugged it off. And stock market was up today, but the interest rates were also up. The 2-year note at one point touched 5%. The 10-year note touched 4%. Those are high levels, Jeffrey, not seen in a long time. And yet the stock market went up considerably today. What do you make of these high interest rates, and how do you think it's going to play itself out?
I think Germany is a little different because they're more reliant on Russian oil than we are.
Right.
Okay, and I mean, let's face it, Russia is hosing anybody who buys it.
Of course.
Okay. You know, when they see that the treasury notes going higher, which is treasury notes, depending on the interest not isn't as big as the fact that it's the most stable of all in terms of investments.
Well, yeah, effectively, you buy a 2-year note, you get almost a 5% return risk-free.
So are people worried that other investments are going to sink? So they're putting it in treasuries? And it's the yields are going up because of, there's more of a demand?
Well, again, the old traditional portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, appears to be still in place. I mean, investors want exposure to both equities and to debt. They're getting paid nicely now for owning the debt, whereas up until, a year ago, it was just fools. I mean, why anyone would buy debt when it was so cheap? That made no sense. But rates have ticked up. 30-year mortgages right now running 6.8%. There is, the economy hasn't really felt, Jeffrey, the full impact of these rates yet because they've been rapid one after another. I know I saw earlier today, Mohamed El-Arian, noted economist, he said the Fed at its next meeting needs to go 50 basis point increase because if you look at the data has not turned out to be what a lot of Wall Streeters thought it would be. And the probability of having interest rate cuts this year has just been slammed shut. That is not. Yeah, that's not going to but a lot of people on Wall Street heading into this year thought it would. So no, it's definitely not happening. Unemployment remains low though.
The other interesting thing I read this week is that I'm trying to forget where he's from, but one of the Morgan Stanley strategist, Mike Wilson, he said that the stock market is on the verge of a severe download.
Mike's been saying that for quite a while.
Oh, really?
He said he expects the market to go back and test its lows. Mike Wilson has been a noted bear for the past few quarters. So I mean, he could be right. We'll see. Yeah, Mike Wilson's been in that camp. And noted a billionaire investor, David Einhorn, Greenlight Capital, came out yesterday, issued a cautionary warning about stocks. And look, the market is fairly pricey right now. I mean, if you're buying the S&P 500, and look, a lot of people say, well, I buy stocks, not the market. But the multiple on the S&P 500 right now is running at 18 times, projected earnings. The projected earnings this year about 222, 225 a share times 18 puts you right, just under $4,000. So, excuse me, the market is priced right now at 18 times earnings. Will that materialize? We'll see. Let me shift internationally a minute now. Now, this was not widely publicized, Jeffrey, but I thought it was newsworthy. Secretary of State Blinken, our top diplomat, was in India and he came across Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. And apparently they had about a 10-minute discussion. And some of the items brought up were the release of American Paul Whelan, who's been held for years. Talked briefly about the Ukraine war and about Russia. Third topic was Russia, basically threatening to pull out of nuclear treaties. Jeffrey, do you make anything of this meeting? I mean, two secretaries of state of polar opposite countries. I mean, it's more than just a passing for sure.
Well, they're not releasing them. At least that's so far what came out of the meeting. I don't think they might be pulling out of the deal, but I don't think they're trying to get into a nuclear war.
No,
what I'm really worried about is that Iran is about this close to the bomb.
86%.
Oh, it's more than that now. They're saying it's about a week away.
Really?
And the interesting thing is that even if Trump didn't pull out of the deal, a year from now, Iran was able to do anything they wanted in the deal. So it's not moving things up very much. And I just wish someone would publish all the lies that Obama and Kerry made to the American people.
Oh yeah, I mean they're so full of baloney. I mean that was a national embarrassment. Kerry representing Obama, and then carrying Biden's water. It's interesting. I'll be interested to see this. Israel has said that if they get near 90, they're going to take action. So, I mean, that seems to be the threshold. I saw reports the other day, 86.3% of the way there. And when they get to 90, Netanyahu has said Israel will take action. Now, what that's going to be.
90% of clean is what you need for a bomb.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, and this is one of Obama and Biden's great accomplishments, by allowing Iran to build a bomb, Israel and Saudi Arabia has become very close to each other.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yep. Well,
and actually, the whole Abraham Accords wouldn't have happened.
That's correct.
Because they're all Sunni states. They're afraid of Iran.
Yeah. Jeffrey, where do you make things? We've got CPAC going on. We've talked about a lot of these issues, from student loans to the war going on in Ukraine. It just seems like there's just a lot of angst in the country right now, whether it be inflation, the war, the student loan thing. I mean, some things are more important than the others to various people, but it just seems like, there's a lot of issues in the country right now, and we're getting virtually no leadership out of the White House whatsoever.
If I had a choice, I would raise Ronald Reagan from the dead.
Of course.
Anything, and not only because I think his policies were great, but anytime something bad happened, he was the way to explain it that you felt better. I still remember when the Challenger blew up, how after seeing his speech, it felt like life was going to go on. I mean, we don't have a president like that. We have a president runs away. I'm not saying he's a coward, but he doesn't like to. He has confrontation problem.
Yeah, okay. No, he has communication issues for sure. I mean, no, I wouldn't say that. Look, the man got on a train from Poland to Kiev. I think Biden genuinely believes in what he's doing. I just think that he's beholden to the far left-wing radicals in his party. I don't think that's where most Americans are.
I don't think that he got on that train going to Ukraine. I think someone told him it was Amtrak going to his home state.
All right, we got a minute left. Okay, where do you see things going from here? We've talked about a lot of issues. Give me your political analysis, and where's the country moving here as we head into March?
Any more Republicans are getting into the race now. That's for sure.
Say again, no, you don't?
Not next week.
Right, I concur.
Even Trump, he didn't get into late 2015 or June 2015, which
midsummer.
We're a couple of months away. I think that there's going to be more bad news about the economy, and any bad news, Biden's going to blame on Trump. But it's not a joke anymore.
I know it's not. It's wearing thin, though.
You know who he learned it from? Obama, who blamed everything on Bush.
I know. Look,
but the president who said he was going to unify the country and make sure everyone was nice to each other is so much in the opposite direction. It's disgusting.
Yeah, that has happened. Look, I think it's still a question mark on the economy. Are we going to be in a recession or not? I don't know the answer to that. I see if you're judging things by the state of Florida, it's not only a non-recession, it's booming down here. But Florida's not the whole country. Okay, I get it. So I don't know. I mean, I know this, Jeffrey. I've never seen a country such as ours go through a recession with 3.5% unemployment. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Now, will the rising interest rates slow things down? Absolutely. In certain industries, I think that's going to happen. But I don't know. I do predict this. I think between now and when we talk next, there's going to be more controversy, more Bidenisms, more stuff this administration will not answer to. But I agree with your assessment. Between now and a week from now, I don't think any other Republicans hop in the race.
The sick thing is, and this is the real problem, this is something everyone should have learned after Nixon. if they come out and said, you know what, America, I screwed up, I'll fix it. We're forgiving people. We'll say, okay, go fix it. But by avoiding it, people are going to get angrier.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
just today, the Attorney General said, okay, you can go sue Trump for January 6th. What?
that's. Oh, you're so right about that, Jeffrey. You are so right. Well,
Everything
we'll
has become, look, I'm a hardcore conservative, but everything has become way too political.
Yeah.
Schumer started beating up on Fox News yesterday.
Oh,
They say
shocking.
because he lies. I got to tell you something. If I had $1 for every time Schumer lied, I mean, this guy, if he wasn't so full of crap, he'd deflate. I mean, he's a liar, but people let him get away with it.
Listen, all we can do is call it as we see it and cut through the
That's our job.
propaganda.
We're supposed to point out the reality.
Yeah, we're going to point it out, folks. We will keep pointing out the hypocrisy and the lies and the BS. So, hey, look, Jeffrey, we're out of time right now. I will plan on seeing you next week.
Can I
Folks,
make a
thanks
plug?
for doing this week.
A quick
Everybody have a
plug?
great week. Yes.
I just spent the last 2 months doing an ebook about the last 75 years of history, taking a look at each American president and their relationship with Israel. It's not a religious thing. It's a political thing. And it's, if you go to my website, it's at the top of the site where you click, and it's a free ebook. You know,
There you go. Lidblog.com, folks.
Yeah. And I really think you'll enjoy it.
Congratulations, Jeffrey. We're happy
Thank you.
for you. Good job. Okay, folks, that's it for today. See you next week. Have a great weekend. Talk soon.